Hello and welcome to our July issue of The Dot Report. As always, thanks for joining and we're glad to have you. In our July report, we'll be covering the recent NASCAR breach, then we'll get the details on T's data leak, followed by a look at what's happening with Allianz Life Insurance before getting into the phishing scheme targeting the US Department of Education. But before we dive into all of that, if you want more stories, head over to Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts and listen to the extended Dot Report featuring an additional 4 stories. Our report this month is at the starting line with NASCAR as the sports entity confirmed a ransomware attack that was identified on April 3rd. A threat actor group known as Medusa, who uses both high-impact breach and unusually public extortion tactics, is taking credit for the incident on their Tor-based leak site. The exact number of victims remains undisclosed, but NASCAR has announced that personal data like names, social security numbers, and employee records were stolen in the breach. While no operational disruptions have been reported, the breach triggered mandatory disclosures in multiple states, including Maine and Massachusetts. The attack also highlights how entertainment brands with vast customer loyalty and high brand visibility are becoming prime targets for ransomware groups. These organizations sit on a trove of underprotected, personally identifiable information, and many of them rely on older infrastructure without hardened segmentation. What's more is that ransomware actors like Medusa have moved beyond encryption and extortion. They now weaponize reputation. For NASCAR, for instance, a brand built on fan engagement and corporate sponsorships, the fallout from such a breach could lead to serious reputational and financial consequences. T suffered a severe breach this month when hackers accessed an old Firebase backend, exposing a massive dataset. Over 72,000 images and 1.1 million private messages were compromised. Files accessed included selfies, screenshots of private DMs, and even ID verification photos meant to keep the platform safe. Many users relied on T for emotional support and sensitive discussions around issues like abuse, cheating, and mental health. The company has issued limited public statements claiming that the breach only affects legacy users registered before February of 2024 and that the app has since transitioned to more secure infrastructure. But experts also argue that retaining that data in a live production environment was a ticking time bomb in the first place. This all hints at a larger issue at hand: app developers collecting highly personal information and then failing to protect it properly. This breach underscores the gap between privacy expectations and back-end reality, and users are paying the price. Our next story is unfortunately not from science fiction as we dive into the Allianz Life data breach. Allianz Life, one of the largest insurance providers in the US, has disclosed a data breach impacting nearly 1.5 million individuals. But what's striking here isn't just the number, it's the source. The breach occurred through a third-party vendor providing CRM services, which means, thankfully, Allianz's internal infrastructure wasn't directly compromised. The attacker used a combination of phishing and lateral movements to navigate through the vendor environment and access sensitive Allianz data, including full names, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, and even financial advisor information. Allianz has been swift to respond, offering 2 years of identity protection to the victims and reporting the breach to regulators in a timely manner. Still, this is another textbook example of supply chain fragility. Enterprises often lock down their own networks but underestimate the risk posed by contractors and platform providers. Additionally, the breach reignites concerns over how insurance companies manage partner integrations. Many third-party firms operate with elevated permissions, yet face looser security oversight. So for threat actors, this means vendors are often the easiest entrance point into high-value targets. And insurers may also need to revisit their own risk models. If vendor security becomes a recurring liability, cyber insurance carriers could raise premiums or refuse coverage altogether unless firms demonstrate active vendor risk management. Recently, the US Department of Education's website was cloned in a phishing campaign that allowed hackers to wreak havoc. A highly targeted phishing campaign is impersonating the U.S. Department of Education's G5 grant portal, tricking both educators and school admins into entering their credentials. The phishing sites are expertly crafted, with matching visuals, URL similarities, and spoofed SSL certificates, making it difficult for even the most tech-savvy users to spot the fraud. And once these credentials are harvested, attackers pivot into internal school systems or state education networks, where they can initiate wire fraud, collect sensitive student data, or even spread malware. In some cases, these phishing sites also install keyloggers or request multi-factor bypass codes, escalating the risk even further. This attack illustrates a dangerous evolution in phishing, as it's no longer about poorly worded emails or obviously fake links. These campaigns are well-funded, technically proficient, and tailored to government domains where users assume built-in trust. Adding to that risk is the fact that many educators and grant writers access these portals from shared or unsecured devices, so without any mandatory hardware-based authentication or browser isolation, a single compromised login could open the door to systemic exploitation. It's time public sector agencies rethink how they authenticate users in high-stakes, high-pressure environments. Because if attackers harvest even a handful of valid credentials, they can map educational infrastructure and potentially chain exploits across systems that handle student records, financial aid, and even payroll. So what began as a spoofed website could evolve into a months-long breach. That's it for this month, so thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Mancini with Security, and this has been the Dot Report. Browse safe out there, and make sure to give the extended Dot Report a listen wherever it is you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.